Welcome back to Economic Application, Class 10, ICSE 2021. The last class, I wanted to start with why the demand curve slopes downwards towards the right. Downwards towards the right actually means why is the demand curve sloping downwards towards the right, or negative sloping, or it says inversely proportional. Inversely means that when the price is rising, why is it that the quantity demanded is decreasing, or vice versa? So here we will understand why the demand curve DD slopes downwards towards the right. So we will discuss 4 reasons. The first one here is law of diminishing marginal utility. So when I want to explain this, you should note this is a simple explanation. It becomes slightly difficult to understand, so I am going to expand and explain to you what exactly is marginal utility and why mu is equal to P takes place. Okay, let me read first. Law of diminishing marginal utility. The law of demand is based on the law of diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing means decreasing marginal utility, which states that as the consumer purchases more and more units of a commodity, your utility derived from each successive unit goes on decreasing. So this paragraph I am going to explain to you first, and then comes the rest. Let me explain with some example. So I want you to understand what is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing means decreasing marginal utility. To understand that, let us say that whenever you want to calculate or give some value to the satisfaction that you get, then we will say that it is 10 utils. So the satisfaction that you get when you consume a good, let us assume that we have units of utils. So when I have the first slice of bread for breakfast in the morning, how much satisfaction did you get? What is the utility derived when you consume the first slice of bread? Let us say 10 utils. Here, utils is a measurement of your satisfaction or utility. So we'll start with the example. Units and marginal utility in utils. Let's take an example. In the morning for breakfast, you had the first slice of bread. When you had the first slice of bread, let us assume that the satisfaction that you got when you had the first slice of bread was 10 utils. 10 utils satisfaction. We are assuming that satisfaction was 10. When you had the second unit, your satisfaction has decreased. So let us say your satisfaction or utils is just 6. Then when you had the third slice of bread, your satisfaction was 2. So as you consume additional unit, one more slice of bread, the satisfaction that you get when you consume additional unit, one more unit, the satisfaction decreases. You take the fourth slice of bread, and when you had the fourth slice of bread, you didn't get any satisfaction. You are full. So what happens is the utility derived by the fourth slice of bread was 0. No utility. However, if you take the fifth one, since you had no utility in the fourth one, when you have the fifth one gave you no utility, but it gave you this utility. So let us say this is now 2. If you see here, when you consume additional unit, the first one, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth slice of bread, the utility or the satisfaction that you get falls 10, 6, 2, 0, minus 2. What is happening? Utility is decreasing. Marginal utility is decreasing means when you consume one more unit of the bread, slice of bread, the utility derived will decrease. So this is called law of diminishing marginal utility, where the marginal utility is decreasing. So now you've understood what is law of diminishing marginal utility. It states that when you consume additional unit of a commodity, the satisfaction or the utils derived decreases. That means the marginal utility decreases. This is what is law of diminishing marginal utility. Now further, once you've understood what is law of diminishing marginal utility, I want to explain the rest of the paragraph. A consumer is willing to pay lesser price. A consumer wants to pay less money, less price for more units of a commodity. If you want more units, if you want to consume or buy more units, you want to pay less money. Why? Since its marginal utility decreases. You may not be clear with this. I will continue anyway. A consumer will maximize his satisfaction till MU of a commodity, MU means marginal utility of commodity, is equal to the price. Thus, a consumer purchases more when the price falls. A consumer quantity demanded by a consumer increases when the price falls, and his quantity demanded will be less, decreases when the price increases, till MU is equal to P. Now let me explain this to you. Let's take an example. You went for shopping, you wanted to buy a pair of shoes, and you are a rational consumer, and you've decided to buy a pair of leather shoes, and you're ready to spend, your budget was 4,000 rupees. So when you go shopping and see the exact kind of shoes that you wish, what you do is, you will see your size, you will like it, you will first check the price. If the price is 8,000, but your budget is 4,000, you're ready to spend 4,000, you will not buy it. Whereas, if the price of the same shoes that you like is just 2,000 and you're ready to spend 4,000, utility is more than the price. You tend to buy more. Till a consumer's equilibrium is reached when MU is equal to P. That means to say that if the price of the shoes is 4,000 and your budget is also 4,000, the price is matching your utility. So consumer will pick up a pair of shoes when MU is equal to P. I will explain with an example. Let's take another example. This time we will take shirts. Number of shirts. Or we can say units of shirts. You buy the first shirt, second shirt, third, fourth. Okay. Let us say the marginal utility derived, which should fall, decrease, let us say is, say 1,000, 800, 600 and 400. What is happening to the marginal utility? It is decreasing as you buy additional unit of the shirts. This is law of diminishing marginal utility. Now further, now you're going to buy, and the price of the shirt in the market is, let us say, 600 rupees. So the price of the shirt is 600. Remember, consumer's equilibrium is reached when MU is equal to P. When MU is equal to P, the price that you pay is equal to the satisfaction that you get. Yes, I paid this price, I am satisfied with that price. When a consumer feels the utility derived from the good is equal to the price that you pay, then consumer's equilibrium is reached, he will buy it. In our example, the price of the good is 600 rupees. So if you want to follow consumer's equilibrium, MU is equal to P, P is 600, and MU here, where is 600? Here. MU 600, price 600, matching. MU is now equal to P. Since MU is equal to P, consumer's equilibrium is reached, you will buy 3 shirts when the price is 600. Now, to explain that the demand curve slopes downwards towards the right, that means to say that when the price falls, a consumer will buy more units of a good. To explain that, let us say the price falls. Price is 600, now the price is 400 rupees. The price is cheaper. What do you know? When the price is cheaper, then a consumer will buy more. But we have to prove why a consumer buys more when the price falls. When the price is 400 and consumer's equilibrium is reached when mu is equal to p. Price 400, mu 400. This is the place where mu is equal to p. So if you take this now, 400, mu is 400, price is 400, mu is equal to p. Consumer's equilibrium is reached when the price falls from 600 to 400. Mu is 400 here, which means you will buy 4 shirts. Here you can see that when the price falls, what happens is, if a consumer has to buy more units when the price falls, then mu will decrease. Price falls means mu also has to decrease. Marginal utility also has to decrease so that mu is equal to p. That is why what happens is, when the price falls, since you want mu is equal to p, a consumer has to buy additional unit of the commodity, because if you buy additional unit of the commodity, then the mu will fall and match with p. So now we can say that when the price falls from 600 to 400, you have to purchase more quantity of the commodity, buy more, demand more, because if you buy more, then the marginal utility will fall and match with mu is equal to p. Hence, we say that a consumer purchases more, buys more when the price falls, and will buy less when the price rises, till mu is equal to p. So this is the explanation of why the demand curve slopes downwards towards the right, law of diminishing marginal utility. For class 10 level, this is just an understanding of what is happening in this paragraph and explained to you. But in exams, you will not get a question how this has worked. This is simply to make you understand. Now that you've understood, when you read this, you will understand, and then you can write this. But you don't have to prepare this example. Next. The next reason why the demand curve is sloping downwards towards the right, negative sloping, is substitution effect. Okay, what do we have to prove? We have to prove that when the price falls, the quantity demanded should increase. So we have to make sure the price of our good will fall, but the substitute good will not change. Substitution effect, substitute good. Example of substitute good, tea and coffee. Substitute good. Remember, we will take tea, let us say, as a commodity, and the substitute good is coffee. Since our commodity is tea, we make sure that the price of tea will change and the price of coffee will remain constant. The substitute good, coffee's price is same, but the tea that you're drinking, the commodity that we are talking about, the price of that commodity tea has to change. Let us take an example of what happens when we take tea and coffee. So we have two substitute goods, tea and coffee. Tea and coffee. If the price of tea is 10 rupees and now coffee is 40 rupees, the substitute, this is the substitute, and this is our commodity. Remember, the substitute goods price will remain constant, no change. We have to change the price of tea, our commodity, to prove that when this commodity changes, that means the price of commodity changes, what will be the effect of the demand on this commodity. So let us say the price of tea is now 20 rupees. So this is based on the relative concept or relative prices. Here you can see a huge gap between tea and coffee. Here you will see a less gap between tea and coffee. So people who are drinking tea will continue tea at 10 rupees. People who are drinking coffee will continue drinking coffee at 40 rupees. Now there's an increase in the price of tea. When the price of tea increases, we say that tea is now comparatively, relatively costlier. Now you will say, how is it costly? Coffee is more, tea is less. We are talking about comparatively, relative. Previously big gap, now less gap, which means to say the price of tea has compared to before gone up. That means relatively tea has now become costlier, and relatively coffee has become cheaper. Though the price of coffee is same, compared to before it is now cheaper. So here we will say the price of tea has increased. Tea is relatively costlier. If tea is relatively costlier, people will say tea is 20, coffee is 40. Why not have coffee? Not much of a difference in the price. Some of the consumers will switch over from tea to coffee. What will happen to the demand for tea when consumers switch over to coffee? The demand for tea will decrease. That means when the price of tea increases, tea is relatively costlier. Some of the consumers switch over to coffee. Demand for tea will decrease. That is why quantity demanded will fall when the price increases. This is substitution effect. Here in my example, I have given coffee as your commodity and tea as a substitute, just the opposite, so that if you read this and take tea as a substitute, you have to understand and explain this in just the opposite way. This time, coffee is your commodity, tea is your substitute. Don't change the price of tea, change the price of coffee, so that you can explain that when your commodity coffee decreases or increases, quantity demanded will change. Next. The next one is called income effect. Now to understand income effect, a very simple example is, let us say your mother gives you 100 rupees. Your mother gives you 100 rupees and says that when you come home from school, I want you to buy 4 kgs of potato. Which means the price of potato is 25 rupees per kg, 4 kg, 100 rupees. You go to the shop and say that you want to buy potatoes. Let us say the price of potato is not 25 rupees, now it is 20 rupees. Price is less. So when the price is less, 20 rupees per kg, with the same 100 rupees, you can either buy more. You can buy 5 kgs of the potatoes, or buy the same 4 kgs and still save how much? You can still save 20 rupees. So what is happening is, with the same 100 rupees, if the price of the good decreases, then your purchasing power increases. Your real income increases. You can buy more when the price falls, or you can save it. So let's read once again. It is a change in demand due to change in real income caused by a change in the price of commodity. A fall in the price of commodity results in increase in real income. Means when the price of a good decreases, your purchasing power increases. You can buy more if the price is less. As his purchasing power increases, since you can buy more, you either buy more of the commodity or buy the same amount but save some money. A typical example here is, the price of apple is 200 rupees per kg and the consumer buys 1 kg. 200 rupees, you buy 1 kg, how much did you spend? 200 rupees. If the price falls from 200, now it is 100 rupees. Price has decreased. What can you do? The consumer can buy 2 kgs, 100 into 2, 200 rupees spent, or you can buy only 1 kg, 100 rupees price and save 100 rupees out of the 200 rupees. That is, when the price falls, your purchasing power increases, your real income increases, you will either buy more, quantity demanded increases, or you can save the amount. The next thing is several uses of commodity. Whenever you take several uses of commodity, you could take milk. Milk has several uses. Milk to make coffee, milk to make paneer, curd. Electricity has many uses. For lighting purpose, to pump water, to charge your mobile, to watch TV. Electricity has many uses. Okay. We will take an example of electricity. What happens to electricity which has several uses? Remember, today the price of electricity per unit is rising. Electricity is going to be costlier. You'll hardly see people using the old heater. You'll see people switching over to other heating which is efficient. You will see people switching over from CFL bulb to LED bulb. Why? Because LED will consume less wattage of power. So people switch over to these kind of bulbs so that the demand for electricity will decrease. So when the price of a good is rising, the quantity demanded will decrease because people use LED bulbs from CFL, or people will use for important purpose like lighting because it is expensive. When the price is high of electricity, is high, they are used for important purpose. You will use it for only lighting purpose. You don't want to use much to switch on the geyser continuously. You will switch it off. You use less. Hence, demand decreases. You will use less when the price is high. This follows the negative sloping demand curve. Negative sloping demand curve means when the demand decreases, when the price increases, the demand will decrease. So these are the 4 reasons why the demand curve is sloping downwards towards the right. There is an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. So now you know the 4 reasons why the demand curve is downward sloping. I will be starting exceptions to the law of demand. Exception to the law of demand means here what we do does not follow the law of demand. Does not follow the law of demand means that when the price increases, quantity demanded should decrease. That is the law of demand, or vice versa. But here it does not follow the law of demand means when the price is increasing, the quantity demand is also increasing. Or when the price is decreasing, the quantity demanded is also decreasing. When both of the variables move in the same direction, it is positive sloping. So, the law of demand says demand curve should be negative sloping. Exception to the law of demand says, but there are some exceptions. The demand curve will also be positive sloping sometimes. So what are the exceptions? What are the cases in which the demand curve is positive sloping? In the next class, I'll discuss about why the demand curve is positive sloping. We have Giffen's good, we have snob appeal, we have expectation regarding future prices, Veblen effect, and a gist of bandwagon effect. Well, this will be all for today. In the next class, I am going to teach you the exception to the law of demand, 4 or 5 cases of why the demand curve is positive sloping. If you read the text once before I start, it will help you. That is all for today. Have a good day. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
children, and welcome to ICSE History online video lectures. I have come back once again to talk about the partition of Bengal. In my previous session, if we looked at the work of the early congressmen and also we looked at the assertive nationalists, then in the light or by focusing at the methods of the the assertive nationalists, today we will look into the partition of Bengal. I have already given you the introduction of Lord Curzon, who came to India in 1899. I have also told you about Lord Curzon and his very unpopular or repressive policies like the Calcutta Corporation Act, Indian Universities Act, Indian Official Secrets Act, and last but not the least, the most damaging was the partition of Bengal in 1905. So let us look at this historic partition of Bengal of 1905. While discussing the partition of Bengal, I will explain to you Curzon's viceroyalty, the official reasons for the partition, the unofficial reasons for the partition, and the reaction of the Indians towards the partition. Now it is very interesting to note, if you just read through the chapter, this topic on partition of Bengal, one thing that you have to, think of is, why only Bengal? There were many other provinces. The provinces were just as large as Bengal. But out of all the provinces, why Lord Curzon decided to partition only Bengal? So this is the first question that should come to your mind. Now, when Lord Curzon came to India, you must notice few things. The early nationalists, they had already started criticizing the policies of the British. And by now, the assertive nationalists, which were a group of young congressmen, they had already entered the scene and were demanding for Swaraj. This could be one of the possible reasons why Lord Curzon thought of coming out with those various repressive policies that I showed you a while back. Now, when you have to announce certain things, then you have to make it official. So I'm just going to show you some of the important dates and years. Let us look at the timeline for the partition of Bengal. I begin with, if you can just take a look at the board, I begin with 20th July 1905. 20th July 1905. Lord Curzon, he passed the plan for partition, meaning he announced, he proclaimed that the province of Bengal will be divided into two halves. So when he was proposing this particular plan, let me tell you that most of the Indians wanted to know the reason why. They wanted to know, like I said before, of all the provinces in India, why were the British interested only in Bengal? So Lord Curzon had to justify. He had to give a just explanation behind the reason for the partition. And this will be your official reason. So the justification made by Lord Curzon will come under the official reason. And the first official reason that he gave was, number one, the province of Bengal is large. All right? Naturally, you can also imagine for yourselves that if you have a very, very big house, you have 20 to 30 rooms, maintaining the house will be a problem. This is the simplest example that I'm giving you. If you're alone in the house and you have to look after those 20, 30 rooms and the guests who are going to come, the family members who are going to be there, naturally, I think we have to give credit to Lord Curzon for coming up with this kind of idea that yes, this Bengal or this province needs to be partitioned. So he said Bengal is large. This also comes in your ICSE. what was the official reason behind the partition. Do not just write that the province of Bengal was large. Also, please elaborate how large, how big was the province. Now, this is very, very important because you need to understand the size of Bengal. Bengal at that time consisted of Bengal proper. It also consisted of parts of Bihar, parts of Orissa, and parts of Assam. So just take a look at the map of India today. Just try to outline the areas of today's West Bengal, Bangladesh, parts of Assam, parts of Bihar, parts of Orissa. Then you will obviously realize that it is quite a big chunk. Lord Curzon was very right. This is a large province. So we gave him 10 out of 10. Yes, it's very difficult to administer this large province. The second official reason that he pointed out was the population problem. Larger the province, larger or bigger the population. And when we are talking about population, India does not have only one community. We have a plural system. We have lots of multi-community system. We have so many people talking different languages. So when I'm talking about the province of Bengal, somebody was speaking in Oriya, somebody was speaking in Bihari, somebody was speaking Assamese, somebody was speaking Bengali, somebody was speaking in Urdu. So we had different kinds of people speaking different languages and following different customs and traditions. So if you have one law, all right, or one policy, then maybe one community is very happy with it, but the other might not be satisfied. It is very, very difficult to administer these variety of communities with one policy from the British. That is why, looking into the situation, Lord Curzon also must have done his homework. So looking into the situation, he decided this very large province has to be divided into two parts. One will be East Bengal and the other one will be known as West Bengal. Therefore, like I said, we give him full 10 on 10 for the justification he has given or he has presented before us behind the partition of Bengal. So on the 20th of July, when this announcement was made, that time the Indians welcomed it. But our Indians are also educated. Please do not forget about that. They also will do their share of homework. They also will do their share of research. They also want to know the reasons, and many of them were not satisfied with the official reasons as given by Lord Curzon. Therefore, on the 7th of August, now please look at the time frame. 20th July, we have the plan for partition was passed. This is the plan, the announcement. From 20th July to 7th August 1905, almost after a month, the Indians launched the anti-partition movement. Meaning, now the Indians found something is fishy, something is not right. The official reasons that have been given by Curzon, they could not be digested by the Indian leaders. And therefore, quickly they decided to go against this plan, to go against this official reason, and they launched the famous anti-partition movement. Now, what were? So therefore, we will come to unofficial reasons. So when the Indians did their share of homework, this is the reason they found, these are the official reasons that they found behind the partition. Number one, a while ago I told you why only Bengal. So let us look at why Bengal is so important for the British. The province of Bengal, number one, had a lot of educated, Bengalis. Right? We have also seen in our previous lessons that plenty of associations, they were formed in Bengal only. The next was Bengal also happened to be the capital of British India. And above all, taking into consideration the educated Bengalis, associations being formed, a lot of work being done here, Bengal was also the nerve center of Indian nationalism. So I will explain each of these points, which will turn into the unofficial reasons behind the partition. First, let me start with educated Bengalis. We had Bipin Chandrapal, Surendranath Banerjee, we have already mentioned these people, Aurobindo Ghosh, Rash Bihari Bose, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, social reformer from Bengal itself. I will go on and on. I do not need to take these names because maybe I will be spending a lot of time just explaining about these Bengalis who have greatly contributed to the Indian national movement. And all these Bengalis were highly educated. So naturally, when you have this educational hub being created in Bengal, the awareness level is so high. They were the ones who were sensitizing the others. They were the ones who had traveled far and wide. They were in touch with the other parts of the world, what was happening in the other parts of the world. So naturally, these knowledgeable, these educated, these intelligent Bengalis became a threat. Threat meaning danger. They turned into a threat for the British. Nobody wants smart people to counter their policies. Nobody wants somebody to stand up and voice out against the policies or criticize the policies of the British. So Lord Curzon, first and foremost, when he looked at Bengal, what did he find? He found some sort of danger with these educated Bengalis. The next thing is a lot of associations were here in Bengal. Like previously, Surendranath Banerjee had established his Indian Association. Then later, so many meetings of the Indian National Congress used to be held in Bengal only. A lot of conferences were held in Bengal. A lot of meetings used to take place in Bengal. Naturally, because Bengal was at that time the capital of British India. So therefore, when a lot of activities are taking place, when you look at the other provinces, when you compare the other provinces, you find that they are very slow paced. But in term, when you look at Bengal, when you compare it with Bengal, then you are finding it that a lot of activities are taking place here. So therefore, this activity was also considered as a threat by the British, especially by Lord Curzon. Last but not the least, it was the nerve center of Indian nationalism. Anything against the British, it used to start from Bengal itself. Whether you talk about protest, processions, writing in newspapers, or whether you talk about conferences being organized, everything actually got started or initiated from Bengal. So naturally, Lord Curzon would not be happy with these activities, especially with regard to the criticism of the British policy. So out of all the provinces, he decided to partition Bengal. The next is to divide. So when he looked at the work of the Bengalis, the work of the educated classes, the kind of countering activities that are taking place by these various associations, etc., he decided to divide. Now, the British are famous for this policy. All of us know that they ruled India for more than 250 years by using the policy of divide and rule. So what did they do? They wanted to break the unity of the Hindus and Muslims. He wanted to pinch that particular area which would hit the Indians hardest. And after doing his research, he found out, yes, the Hindus and Muslims, they have problems with one another. So why don't we use this problem as an advantage? So what he did was, he decided to partition Bengal, and by that he decided to partition or break or split the unity of the Hindus and the Muslims. He also wanted to reduce these Bengalis to a minority. By doing that, if he is focusing on East Bengal, which was a Muslim majority area, he wanted to please the Muslims, and by this he wanted to make the Hindus also very, very angry. And the British were famous for playing such kind of games. So I have explained to you the official reasons. Official reason was plain and simple. It is a big province, plenty of population, difficult to administer. Administrative reason. But after doing the homework, what did the Indians realize? The Indians realized that first and foremost, the British were scared of these educated Bengalis. Bengal was the nerve center of Indian nationalism. They wanted to break the unity of the Hindus and the Muslims. They wanted to reduce the Bengalis to a minority. So when this was exposed, when this was clear, when the truth came out, that is the reason why on the 7th of August, the Indian leaders decided to launch the anti-partition movement. So conferences were organized, town hall meeting was organized, then we had rallies and people, various newspapers were also used. Sanjeevani, in Sanjeevani, we had K.K. Mitra, Krishna Kumar Mitra, who for the first time advocated his idea of Swadeshi and boycott. Hitabadi was there, Amrit Bazar Patrika was there. All these newspapers were used to expose the true nature of the British, to expose the ideas of Lord Curzon behind the partition. But when an appeal was made, now please remember in 1905, we still had the dominance of the early nationalists. Dadabhai Naoroji was still there, Surendranath Banerjee was still there, Gopal Krishna Gokhale was there, Badruddin Tayabji was there, Firoz Shah Mehta was there, and we have already studied about their methods and their beliefs. They are loyal to the British, they are friendly, they believe in the honesty and justice of the British. So initially, one section of the Congress, which is the early nationalists, did not believe in using revolutionary methods to go against the British. But the younger section, like Bipin Chandrapal, we had Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, they were the ones who wanted to use the revolutionary techniques to attain Swaraj and also to revoke or annul this plan for partition. But Lord Curzon was Lord Curzon. He has already given a word and he will not go back. So he has also mentioned that what is planned cannot be unplanned. I have already decided and I cannot go back on it. Therefore, on the 16th of October, look at this historic date, 7th August to October, August, September, October, we had full anti-partition movement, all right? But on the 16th of October, Lord Curzon also was very adamant, he was also very stubborn, and therefore he finally partitioned Bengal. No matter how many times the Indians went against it, no matter how many times the Indians criticized this policy, the hue and cry, the processions, the rallies, the protests, it made no difference to Lord Curzon, who finally partitioned it on the 16th of October 1905. And this special day is also known as the Day of Mourning, meaning when somebody is dead, as if somebody is dead. And on the 16th of October, early in the morning, most of the Hindus, they went to the river Ganga, they took a holy bath. Later in the afternoon, they all came out on the streets. This was not only about Hindu or Muslim. Every Bengali who wanted, all right, this anti-partition protest, they all joined the rallies and processions were there out on the streets. There were cries of Vande Mataram, all right, which was taken from a book. And then these cries, the slogans, they just filled the streets of Bengal. Rabindranath Tagore also had written beautiful poems and beautiful songs on Bengal. So we could hear the songs like Amar Shonar Bangla or My Golden Bengal. What has happened to my Golden Bengal? These slogans, these songs filled the streets of Bengal. And just to show Lord Curzon that you might partition it for administrative reason, but you cannot partition our unity, you cannot partition our hearts. The Hindus tied Rakhi around the wrists of the Muslims. Now, Raksha Bandhan is celebrated, as you all know. This is basically to show the feeling of brotherhood towards one another. The same thing also happened. Of course, that day was not Raksha Bandhan. It was 16th of October. But the symbol of unity was shown by tying the sacred thread Rakhi around the wrists of the Muslims. Then later on, we could see many of the leaders, they started giving political speeches. A lot of rallies and processions also came out. But very sad to say, Bengal was partitioned into two halves. One of West Bengal, now being dominated by the Bengali Hindus. And the other one was East Bengal, which would be dominated by the Muslims. So this period from 1905 to 1906 and 1907, normally while teaching the children also I say that this 5, 6, 7 is a period of breakups. So the 1905 to 1907, this period, I usually refer to it as the period of breakup. Everything was breaking up. Like, for example, in 1905, because of the partition, we had two new provinces, West Bengal and East Bengal. The following year, in 1906, we also had the birth of a new organization or a new political party called Muslim League, because of which we had now one party that is Congress and the other one that is Muslim League, which got separated. Then again in 1907, we had the historic Surat Split. Surat Split again where the Congress split into two halves, one with the moderates and the other one with the extremists. So it seemed to be these 3 years, 5, 6 and 7 seemed to be very unlucky for the Indian national movement because everything was splitting. Right from the provinces to the political parties to the ideas, everything was breaking up. So I have explained to you partition of Bengal, the official reason, unofficial reason, and the reaction of the Indians. Now let me quickly go into the contribution of the famous assertive nationalists. I will start from Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Very, very famous in ICSE for the long question. Especially sometimes you do get a picture study also on Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Only 2 contributions. So many things that Tilak has done, but I have just mentioned here. He was the first person to give this cry, to give the slogan, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. And during those days, it required so much of courage, right? He was really a brave heart to cry out the slogan, especially mentioning this word Swaraj. Next, he wrote books like Arctic Home of the Vedas and Gita Rahasya. He also edited newspapers like Kesari and Maratha. Very, very instrumental in reviving the Shivaji and Ganapati festival. He went to jail many times. At one time, he was deported to Mandalay under the Official Secrets Act. But even then, these things did not stop Tilak at all from following the national movement, from following his goal, and that is to achieve independence. The next person is Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai, he founded the DAV College in Lahore. Lahore today is in Pakistan. Young India, he also wrote a book, Young India. Then he was very, very active during the protest of the Simon Commission, especially when the boycott was taking place. And this is the same time when he got wounded and also he breathed his last. Then he, for all his work, for all his contribution, for all his bravery and courage, today India remembers him, or today we remember him as Sher-e-Punjab, or Lion of Punjab. Then, coming to Bipin Chandrapal, a Bengali, he edited the newspaper New India. He was arrested on charges of sedition, sentenced to jail, but it did not make any difference to these leaders. In fact, they were so happy to fight for the cause of their motherland. Then, he is also known as the father of revolutionary terrorism. So just for your examination's sake, you can write any two of the contributions of these leaders. Lastly, I would like to end today's lecture with the Surat Split. I have already explained to you about the breakup. I will come to the last breakup, that is 1907, the Surat Split. After the partitioning of Bengal, in 1906, Muslim League was formed. I will do that in the next chapter. But in 1906, there was a session which was held in Surat. And the session was of Indian National Congress, and differences had already started cropping up between the young leaders, that is assertive nationalists, and the old leaders with their old methods coming from the old school, that is the early nationalists. So what happened was, in 1907, the following year, because of ideological differences, the following year in 1907, a split took place within the Congress. The Congress also broke up. And the reasons behind the split was, first, regarding the presidential candidate. Every year after elections, the president of the Congress was chosen. This time you had two strong candidates. One was Tilak and the other one was Rash Bihari Bose. And the supporters were also now clearly divided. The early nationalists decided to support Rash Bihari Bose, whereas the assertive nationalists decided to support Tilak as the presidential candidate. And by now it was very clear that the Congress was already split. The next was regarding the partition of Bengal methods. I have already explained, when the anti-partition movement was going on and we had the Swadeshi, use of Swadeshi and boycott as the methods, many of the moderates were not in favor of using these methods. Once again, let me remind you, they are loyal to the British. They do not want to hurt the British by burning the foreign goods, by protesting and criticizing and coming out on the streets using the revolutionary techniques. So on the basis of this, on the basis of the methods used for partition of Bengal, here again we see a clear division between the ideologies of the early nationalists and the assertive nationalists. And last but not the least, regarding the objectives of the Congress. In my previous lecture, when I spoke about the first objectives of the Congress, that is to develop friendly relations and to create public opinion, that time you will realize the early congressmen, they never asked for Swaraj. Nowhere in the objectives you will see the mentioning of the word Swaraj, which means when the Congress was formed initially, the objective, the whole idea behind the Congress was not Swaraj. But the assertive nationalists, like Tilak, was the first one to use the term Swaraj. And on this, again, the two groups now split up, and the assertive nationalists walked out from the Congress in 1907. This event is known as the Surat Split. So I hope you have understood the partition of Bengal, the contribution of the assertive nationalists, and the Surat Split. Thank you very much for watching this video. And till the next session, I will come with a Muslim League. Till then, stay safe, save lives, and stay indoors. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the next episode dealing with computer application for ICSE 2021. Previously we have started with the if statement, so we continue with that. Today we will be dealing with some programs related to if, okay? So we are following if, we are doing if, we will be doing programs on if. Earlier we had seen the syntax, remember? If with one option. We also know that this condition can either be true or it can be false. When the condition is true, the control comes and executes this option. After executing the option, the control goes out of the if, and whatever you write after if will be executed. In case the condition is false, the control doesn't enter the if body. It directly goes to the line following if. Whatever you have written after this if statement, that gets executed. Okay? So this is the syntax of if. We will use this in our program. So we have got a program here which asks the user to enter a number and then display the cube of its positive form. Okay, the user can enter a negative number or a positive number, but when we calculate, we will calculate the positive cube of it. We will multiply with the positive number. If the user has given a negative value, we will change it to positive and then find the cube. In case the user gives a positive value, then we directly find the cube of that number. So what we need to input? We need to input a number. It can be anything, any number, positive or negative. Then we need to check if the number is negative, because if the number is negative, we need to convert it to positive. And in case the number is positive, we don't have to do anything. And then we display the cube. We calculate the cube and display the cube of the positive form. Fine? So we need two variables. Why you need two variables? Can anyone tell me? Okay, one for the value that is being entered by the user and one to store the cube of the number. Okay, so two variables. Both variables we will use as float type, and in our program we will use the name v for the value that is given by the user and cb for the cube that we will calculate. So variable name will be v and cb. Now let's write the program. So first we give a single line comment. As we know, single line comments or any comments are non-executable. They have no effect on the program as such. Then we import java.util, the util package. Then we create the class with the name positive. Then we create the main function public static void main string args. We create the scanner object. We are using the scanner class, so we create the scanner object sc. Now we declare the variables and initialize them to 0.0, the default value. So float v equals to 0.0f, float cb equals to 0.0f. So both the variables have been declared and initialized to the default values. Now we display on the screen enter a number. So when we run the program, our program should tell the user to enter a number. So system.out.print /n enter a number. Now, once the number has been given by the user, we need to store it in v. So sc.nextFloat, the scanner function that will read a floating point value and store it in the variable v. Fine. So user has entered a value. The next step is to check whether the value is negative or not. So we are using the if statement. Here comes the if statement. So if v is less than 0.0, values less than 0.0, we assume them to be negative value. So we are checking whether the value entered by the user is less than 0 or not. In case it is less than 0, that means it is a negative value. Now, how do you convert a negative value to a positive value? The same value. What we do is we take the negative value and multiply by -1. Any negative value, when you multiply by -1, it becomes positive. The actual value doesn't change, only the sign, whether it is negative or positive, that changes. So here, in case the user has given a negative value, when you multiply by -1, it becomes positive. The absolute value remains same. Absolute value of the variable v remains same. Okay? In case the user has given a positive value, in case the value of v is positive, then obviously this portion will not get executed. The condition will be checked, and then this option will be skipped. So we have checked whether the value of v is negative or positive. In case it is negative, we multiply by -1 to make it positive. So now the value of v, irrespective of whether the user has entered negative or positive, after this it is positive. So now we need to calculate the cube of it. So CB equals to v into v into v. We are not using the library function, we are directly multiplying, simple multiplication. When we multiply 3 times, it's the same value, we are getting the cube. So v into v will give the cube of the value that has been entered by the user. So input is done, checking is done, calculation is done. So now we need to display the value. So to display, we use again system.out.print. Cube of the positive form is whatever is the value of CB that will be stored, that will be shown to the user on the screen. Okay. So input is done, checking is done. In this portion, the conversion has been done from negative to positive. Calculation has been done, and here the display has taken place. Do we need anything more? According to the program, we don't need anything more. So we close the main function, we close the class. So this is our program for the problem that was given to us. Now let's run this program. I have run this program using BlueJ. So what we get on the terminal window? On the terminal window, my program tells the user to enter a number. Okay, and my program waits for the user to give the value. When you write this program and if you execute it, this is what you will see on the screen on your terminal window. You will see the statement coming, enter a number, and then you will see the cursor waiting for the user to enter a value. Let's give 9. So the user gives 9. Here only 9, that means it is a positive 9. So the cube of the positive form is 729. So 9 cube, 729. Okay. Here what had happened is, since the user has given 9, the value of v is 9, positive 9. When it goes back, let's see what was the program. Here we have given the value of v as 9. So 9 is less than 0.0. No. So this portion is skipped. This portion is skipped. It is 9 into 9 into 9. Fine. So we got 729. Now suppose we give -9. Instead of 9, we give -9, a negative value. In this case, when you give negative value, remember, this becomes true now. This condition becomes true. So control enters here. So we have given the value of v as -9. So not this one, -9 into -1. So -9 into -1 becomes 9. So new value of v is 9. User has entered -9. Here the value of v has become 9. And then it proceeds with the rest part of the program. So here, when we had entered -9, we are getting the same, the positive form 729. See, the cube is a positive value. When we had entered 9, then also it was 729. When we have entered -9, then also it is 729. Because after we have entered -9, it has been changed to positive 9. And then the calculation has taken place. Fine? Good. Now we move on, I think, to the next program. So next program says, a shop gives a discount of 15% on purchase above rupees 5,000. So if you go to a shop, this particular shop, and you make a purchase of more than 5,000 rupees, then you get a discount of 15%. In case your purchase is less than or equal to 5,000, then you don't get a discount. So discount will be given only when you make a purchase of more than 5,000 rupees. Okay. So we need to write a program to input the purchase amount, then calculate the discount amount, if any, means obviously if the purchase amount is more than 5,000, then the discount comes into play. Otherwise, there is no discount. And finally, we calculate and display the final bill amount. Okay? Clear? Good. So what we need to input from the question, we find that we need to input the purchase amount. That means the user has to enter the purchase amount. Then we need to check if the amount is more than 5,000, because the discount is given only if the purchase amount is more than 5,000. So we need to check whether the amount is more than 5,000. Then we need to calculate the discount amount. Whatever is the discount amount, 15% of the purchase amount above 5,000, that will be the discount amount. Okay. And then we calculate the final bill. Remember, final bill will be the purchase amount minus the discount amount. Final bill is purchase amount minus the discount amount. So we need to calculate the final bill and then display the final bill. Fine. So these are the process that we need to carry out in our program. So for this, we need to have 3 variables. Why 3 variables? One for the purchase amount, which has to be entered by the user. One for the discount amount, which will be calculated within the if statement. And then the final bill, which we need to calculate by subtracting the discount amount from the purchase amount. So 3 variables. All 3 variables we will declare as float. You may declare float or double. Fine. And we will use the following variable names: PA for purchase amount, DA for discount amount, F bill for the final bill amount. Clear? So 3 variables, the names are given, data type is float, and these are the different process that we need to carry out in our program. So let's proceed with the program. So we are calculating the discount using if. We are again importing the util package. We create a class called discount. We create the main function, public static void main. We create the scanner object SC. Now we declare the 3 different variables: float PA equals to 0.0f, DA equals to 0.0f, and F bill equals to 0.0f. 3 variables I have declared separately, and they have been initialized to their default values. Remember, float and double, the default value is 0.0. For integer type, the default value is 0. Okay. So variable declaration is done. Now we need to ask the user to enter the purchase amount. So using system.out.print, we are displaying this message on the screen. When we run the program, this message will come on the screen. Enter the purchase amount. So the user knows that he or she has to enter the purchase amount. Correct? Then we store that. Whatever the user enters, that amount, that value is being stored in the variable PA. Remember, PA is purchase amount. So after the user enters the value, it is being stored in PA. We are taking the value from the keyboard using the scanf function next float. Now that we have entered the purchase amount, we need to check if it is more than 5,000. So when we check, we need to use the if statement. So if purchase amount is more than, greater than 5,000. Fine. We don't have to write RL, the rupees, the symbol for rupees, because it is numeric type, numeric value. Only the numeric portion has to be written, nothing else. So if purchase amount or PA is more than 5,000, then the discount takes place, 15% of the discount, 15% of the purchase amount. Okay. So discount amount equals to purchase amount multiplied by 15 by 100. So 15% discount, 15 by 100 of the purchase amount. You can write 15 by 100, or you can write directly, you can write 0.15 also. Purchase amount into 0.15 you can directly write. Both are correct. 15 by 100 or 0.15. So this will calculate the 15% discount and store it in DA, discount amount. DA is discount amount. So this is the if statement. So this calculation will take place, the 15% discount will take place only when the purchase amount is more than 5,000. In case the purchase amount is not more than 5,000, then this calculation will not take place because the control will not enter this. It will directly come out here. Fine. So now that we have calculated the discount, we need to calculate the final bill amount. So F bill, remember F bill is the variable for final bill. So F bill is purchase amount minus the discount amount. Purchase amount minus the discount amount. In case the value of 5,000 is more than, in case the purchase amount is more than 5,000, then whatever is the calculation that will be stored in DA. In case it is less than 5,000 or less than equals to 5,000, the control will not enter here. So DA value will remain what we had given in the initial stage, that is 0. That was the default value which we have given in when we initialized the variable DA. So if the control doesn't enter here, the value of DA remains as 0. So purchase amount minus whatever is the value of DA. If it has entered here, whatever is the calculation after calculated value that is in DA, that will be subtracted from PA. In case the control doesn't enter here, then DA remains as 0. So purchase amount minus 0 will be the purchase amount itself. Fine. Now we need to display the information, the final bill and the discount amount. So we write system.out.print and we give the remark, you got a discount of whatever is the discount amount that will be displayed. Remember, discount amount is stored in DA after this calculation. So DA will be displayed. And finally, the final bill, you need to pay rupees, whatever you need to pay after the discount, that is stored in final bill. So that is being displayed. So our input is done, calculation is done, discount calculation is done, final bill calculation is done, display of the discount amount and the final bill is also done. So nothing more is left. So we now close the main function, we close the class. Okay. So we have asked the user for purchase amount, stored it in a variable called PA. Then we have checked whether the value of PA is more than 5,000. If it is more than 5,000, we have given a discount of 15%. We have subtracted the discount amount from the purchase amount, that is the final bill. And finally, we have displayed the discount amount and the final bill. So let's run this program now. Again, I have used BlueJ. So when I execute this program, on the terminal window, we get this message, enter the purchase amount. Remember, right at the beginning, we have used this statement so that the user knows what to enter. So my program tells the user, enter the purchase amount. Suppose the user gives a purchase amount of 10,000. The user has made a purchase of 10,000, so user writes 10,000. Now this 10,000, remember, is more than 5,000. So gets a discount of 15%. So you got a discount of 1,500. So 15% of 10,000 is 1,500. And then the final bill, you need to pay rupees 8,500. Remember, this will be stored in the variable called PA. That PA has been taken and checked using if statement, whether it is more than 5,000 or not. Since it is more than 5,000, the controller has entered the if statement and then calculated 15% of 10,000. 15% of 10,000 is 1,500. That 1,500, this 1,500 was stored in a variable called DA. Remember, we have declared DA as discount amount. And then after the if statement, we have come out of the if statement and subtracted this discount amount from this purchase amount to get the final bill. This is the final bill amount. So 10,000 minus 1,500 is 8,500. So when the user makes a purchase of 10,000, he or she gets a discount of 1,500 and needs to pay 8,500. Clear? So this is a program on if. Now suppose the user gives a value less than 5,000, like 4,500. Now, according to the shop's criteria, if the purchase is less than or equal to 5,000, there is no discount. There is no question of discount. So 4,500 is less than 5,000, so there will be no discount. That means the condition that we have used with the if statement is false. The control doesn't enter the body of the if. It directly goes to calculate the final bill amount. So final bill amount was, F bill was purchase amount minus DA. Since the control doesn't enter the body of the if, DA value remains as 0.0. So purchase amount was 4,500. See, discount is 0.0 because the initial value remains. We have not entered the body of the if to change the value of DA. It remains with the initial value. So there is no discount, 0.0. And the final bill, remember final bill calculation was purchase amount minus discount amount, PA minus DA. PA 4,500, DA is 0.0. So 4,500 minus 0.0 is 4,500 only. So final bill amount is 4,500. Clear? So in this program, we have seen the use of the if statement, a simple if statement without the else, where with the if we have got only one option. Fine? So I hope these two programs will help you to understand the logic of if, simple if. This is how an if statement works. In certain programs, you will need to use the if statement, only the if statement, not the if else. Okay? In later episode, we will deal with if else and the other formats of if else. Okay? So thank you once more. And as I say, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.